of the areas where we are extremely strong is the area of mobile banking. So we have developed some exceptional mobile banking applications, and they are all extremely stunning, but also they are custom-built, complex systems with tailor-made security. So basically every one of these applications is using a custom security scheme and custom security implementation. So now you might be asking a question, why the security matters? Why do we do it? Why don't we just make applications that look nice and don't deal with it? So in fact, we have done a research. We asked people about mobile banking, and we found out, okay, so I will need to turn it around a bit. We found out that about 20% of users who currently don't use mobile banking and have smartphones do so because of the security concerns, primarily. This is disturbing because if you look at the numbers, this group of people is actually as big as the group of current users of mobile banking. So basically just by dealing with the security issues visibly so that people can understand why it is secure would double the user base of mobile banking, which is interesting for banks because mobile applications are extremely strong sales channel for the financial products. We have numbers that shows this. So let's talk about mobile banking security. I will just give you a quick outline on what we will cover today. And we will start with just talking about the smartphones, why they are different from the security perspective. Then we will cover the architecture of the mobile banking, both on the server side and on the client side. Then I will answer the ultimate question, is it safe? in a manner which will immediately result in the last point, what are the current topics that we need to deal with? So basically, let's talk about mobile devices for a while. Now, mobile devices are no longer the geeky toy for the rich guys. They are basically common. About 70% of today's phones are smartphones that are currently sold, and about 30% of all phones are smartphones. So basically, they are normal. Most of you have smartphones, and most of the people in 5 years will have smartphones. They are highly portable, which means you bring them everywhere. The mobile phone is the only device that you take, that you return for if you forget it at home, and that you take it with yourself all the time. They are always online, which basically means they connect to different Wi-Fis and different carriers and so on, and they have sensors. So sensors are extremely funny from the security perspective because you can actually steal someone's password on desktop just by putting a phone next to it. Using accelerometer and gyroscope, you can teach it to actually steal the password. So if you look at the bullet points, basically this is not about security. Everybody has it, so there's a big market for attackers. The devices are everywhere, you can easily steal it. They are always connected, they can download applications, and they have sensors. So there are many, many problems that arises. Okay. Now, all smartphones have operating systems, or, well, so-called operating systems sometimes, and they are able to run application, and this is the main difference from the feature phones. Basically, operating system is usually built on some solid desktop operating system like Linux or Mac OS X, but then there is this layer of Dalvik or Cocoa, or basically application layer, which makes it all very difficult, because if you, for example, jailbreak your device, or if someone is able to perform some smaller attack, like it's called failbreak, it's very easy to modify the binary in runtime. It's very easy to read the memory of the application. So the data that are in the application aren't safe just because the operating system doesn't help you too much here. So this is about the mobile devices. By the way, if you have any question, just interrupt me and ask. It's there are no taboos in security. So now about mobile banking architecture. How does it look? I will show you the big picture of how does it look. So this is the mobile banking. Basically, this is the breaking line. So in the back, there are all the systems. IT companies are very creative in selling software to the banks. So we have billions of softwares in the back ends. And because they become so complex and so hard to understand, there is one ultra software called integration platform, which basically has the only purpose to connect them. And you don't have any chance to do any development without development on the integration middleware. So this is one piece of software. And then there is a front-end side. Like here would be internet banking or the software they use at branches. And also there is a new front-end server which is specifically used for the mobile application. This is the most common pattern for mobile banking solutions. And indeed, the most important and probably the most beautiful application is the mobile banking application there. So yeah, maybe I should apologize a little bit for using this yellow application of one particular bank, but from my perspective, this is the best case study for mobile security. I think it's the most secure application on the world that can be done with a single device. So we played with a lot of stuff there. So from this picture, if you look at it, there are only these two boxes which are interesting from the security perspective, because these systems are usually way too in the back, so it's very difficult to get to them. Usually you don't have any chance to attack them. So the front-end facing server, okay, both of these need to go through audits, through penetration testing before they are released. So this front-end facing server is basically a boring old web application built using common technologies like Java or C# or well, these two basically at banks, so there are not too many other. And all the problems that are connected with these two technologies and with the front-end facing server are well known, SQL injection and so on. It's the old web development. There is nothing new, and the problems were pretty much solved. I think the more important thing from my perspective is the application, because you distribute the source codes with the application. In fact, you just give it to all users and everyone can study it, everyone can play with it and do anything he or she wants. So the mobile application is ideally a native application. We had a talk before which said we can do everything in HTML5. Well, what happens from the security perspective in HTML5? How do you do custom signing there and so on? So basically, no, some applications can't be made using HTML5. And there are various operating systems. So basically, you implement application for each of these operating systems from scratch. And naturally, a question arises. You have 3 implementations. So we will have 3 security implementations. Isn't it buggy? So no, it isn't buggy because it's not done this way. Basically, the security implementation is usually shared across the platforms. So you implement it, basically you have an iPhone app, which is some UI for phone, for tablet, some business logics, communication with server, and security implementation. And then you have the Android application, which is basically the same. You need to make custom UI because you need the application to look perfect on the platform, right? It's not just about having it. It must be beautiful. And then you again share the security module, and you bridge it using Android NDK, basically on Android. So this is how it's done in modern application, which means ours. And it's written in C and C++. So this is really important because only C and C++ can assure you some low-level implementation, which is strict in the terms of memory management and so on. So this is about the architecture. Again, if you have any questions or if you've done differently, ask. Yes. It is possible. You basically make something like DLL. We have done research on it, but the problem with Windows Phone is that nobody uses it. Basically, the business case doesn't work there. Because if you look at the numbers for Czech market, I have pretty good numbers. You have like 1.7 million of Android users. We are a much smaller market than Poland. Then you have 300,000 of iPhone users and 100,000 Windows Phone users. It doesn't pay off even for the iPhone, but the problem is that the iPhone users are extremely loud and they talk about the stuff, and basically they are using, the smaller number of iPhone users are using the mobile banking as much as the big number of Android users. So they are making a really good advertisement for it. So, yes. No, that's a good point. Microsoft also didn't help us with the numbering and with versions. For example, if I get a request from a client on a Windows Phone 8 application, the first question from the developer is it really Windows Phone awesome? Isn't it Windows 8? Right? Sorry, I said awesome because you should understand me here. Yeah.
What does the native code in that middle block do? Because if it's the same code for iOS and Android, I assume it's some kind of architecture independent, I don't know, cryptography software or something that doesn't touch any system interfaces, APIs, and so on. So
yes, it does quite a lot of stuff. It basically, you need to store keys in order to make cryptography. So basically all key encryption, the keys are stored encrypted, so you need to decrypt them. So you do it in this code. So basically the input is the request to be signed, for example, the data of a payment order. You put it you put the payment data here, and then you get the signature for the data, and you don't care about anything. All the cryptography, which needs to be done, is done there, or all the keys and the intermediate.
Have you considered using SIM card or some secure module to do this? Because there is, in fact, no way to do it securely.
Yes. We will get to it. It's the last slide. Basically, we don't use the SIM cards because we have no way to get there programmatically. But we are thinking about the token. So, in fact, there is a great talk in the other room. So I'm making advertisement for you to leave. but there's a guy talking about the Internet of Things. So we are currently developing our own security token just to do it in this stream. So
native code your own implementation, or is it something like bouncy castle?
Yes, okay, there are two things. The first thing is the basic cryptography. We are using either Bouncy Castle or OpenSSL. It depends on the bank. They say use OpenSSL or use Bouncy Castle. So we use one of these, and then we need to basically build the whole scheme on it. So basically just AES isn't the cryptography. You need to say how you use AES and how you combine the boxes. So this is also in the module. And yes, it's not malware aware, but it helps a lot to mainly prevent anti-theft attack. So this is the current status. I will talk about it just now. So basically today I can say that the level of security is adequate. If you look at what threats are present, the problems aren't so big. But we currently foresee the problems that will come in 1 or 2 years. So basically, there is an ongoing discussion on what is adequate. So this is how the world works probably. Everything is about discussion about what is adequate at the moment. And there is basically no consensus on how the security on mobile phones should be done. Basically, if you ask people about the internet banking, they say, yeah, it's secure because I have the SMS on my phone. Right? This is what they usually say, the normal people. There is no such thing, no such symbol of security on the mobile phones. So basically, from this perspective, this is the reason why there is the big number of people who are afraid of using it, because they don't see how it works. Also, there is always this discussion about, well, if it's secure, it must be hard to use. I don't really believe it. I'm trying to fight this because, the amount of user suffering isn't connected to the security, right? It doesn't make any sense. And also, because mobile applications are quite new, they are still quite new. There are mistakes which arise from the incorrect implementation which have been dealt with on other platforms, such as the SSL certificate handling. It's still not implemented correctly everywhere. So, if I wanted to attack the mobile banking today, so I would probably choose these 4 types of attacks. These are worth trying, so I encourage you to try them and contact your bank. Because this is actually how I got to the mobile security. I was like playing with every single mobile banking application until I found something and contacted the bank, and this boosts your ego a bit. So the first attack is a man-in-the-middle attack. The problem with iOS is even stronger than with Android. It's probably the only security-related topic which is more problem on iOS than on Android. So basically, on iOS, if somebody sends you an email, or if you open a website, for example, in Starbucks, where is the Connect Me button, you can open and install the SSL authority, basically the root certificate. which opens up your communication to the attacker. So now, how do you deal with it, right? So first of all, none of the application we have developed relies on HTTPS. You know, it's just a part of the uniform. You must have it. If you don't have it, you're an idiot. But you mustn't rely on it. You basically need to implement some application level signing. Every request must be signed on the application level as well. And also, we try to make the SSL as strong as possible. So we usually do some stricter certificate validation than is usual on the mobile application. Basically, immediately a question arises: what happens if the SSL certificate is obsolete, if it's expired? So basically, you need to also implement mechanism to exchange the fingerprints between the application and the backend. So there is some really difficult work to do, but it's been done elsewhere, but it hasn't been done on mobile. So this is the problem we are dealing with. It's still too new and it's not ready to use. Now, this is one of the most simple and cheapest attack you can make. You just pick a bank which doesn't have a mobile banking. You pay $25 for the Google account, and you release a fake application which asks for the username and password, and then you intercept the SMS messages, and you need to deal with how you get the money from the bank. And it's really simple and really cheap. I wonder nobody does it. So the main problem is that there is no defense at all. You basically need to rely on checking the Google Play Market and, well, maybe the App Store as well, and you need to rely on the ratings. So I often hear that the reason why the banks don't have mobile banking is the security. We don't have it because it's not secure, right? This makes sense. But if you think about it, it doesn't work, because if anybody releases the fake application, you will download it. For example, we have numbers which show that about 1,000 people download in the first day. So this is quite a lot of money you can steal this way. So the best thing to do is release an application, talk about it loudly, and make it great so that you have good ratings. So this is the good security prevention. Now, the next type of attack is the anti-theft attack. Basically, this is really funny because it doesn't really make any impact for the bank. If two users lose their iPhones and lose all their money, no problem for bank, right? But from the user's point of view, this is the main issue. They usually say, well, I don't use it because if I lose it, someone may get to my money. So this is one of the main fear on the user's side. And if you think about it, to fight this attack, you need to deal with three, or maybe more, but three main issues. First of all, you need to deal with the side channels somehow. You need to make sure that your application uses something unique for authentication. Basically, since you can install any application on your iPhone or Android device, you can install, for example, an eShop. And how do they store your password? You know, you have no idea. The application isn't security intensive. So if you select the username and password as an authentication credentials, right? They don't work because you will probably find them saved somewhere else. So this is how Keychain Dumper looks like. It's a special application which you can basically run on any jailbroken iPhone, and it lists the contents of your keychain. So you can read the passwords there, basically. There are information about your account and passwords listed, so you probably shouldn't use it this way, because any application which doesn't store it properly will compromise you. Now, there is a great article on this subject called Lost iPhone, Lost Passwords, which is done by the German university there, which is updated every time Apple releases the new version of iOS to capture the current state, and it's still the issue for some passwords. The problem is that even if this is not the issue, you may find an eShop which stores your credentials in preferences, for example. So how do we deal with this? For example, we chose a numeric PIN to our mobile banking, because not many applications use numeric PIN, right? So you don't find it. Now, the problem with numeric PIN is that people have fear that the attacker may guess it, right? If I say you can log into your mobile banking using a 4-digit PIN, everybody says, well, it's not secure, it's too few combination. Well, we can have up to 9 digits actually, but people still fear. So the problem with this is that you need to explain to people and you need to implement the security so that you have only a limited number of attempts. And it sounds trivial, but it's not always the case. For example, if you say, I will store my private key on the phone and I will encrypt it using the PIN code, okay, then you can do everything locally. You don't need to ask server for anything. You basically have unlimited number of attempts to find out if the key is correct or not. So, so basically you need to start with making all keys random so that if anything you save on the phone is random and you decrypt it, you have no chance to say, is it correct or not? You need to ask the server in order to get it. Now, if I say you need to limit the number of guesses, there is one opposite requirement you need to make. You need to stop the attacker from denying you service by just blindly guessing and firing the server. So you need to design the cryptography in such a way that you distinguish the situations when attacker has the phone from the situations when attacker is just firing the server. So you need to have 2 keys at least, one related to the device and one related to the password, and you need to evaluate them independently on the server in a way. So again, there are many ways to do it, and every single application we do does it a little bit differently because, you know, there's also a claim that security must be open sourced because only open source security is really secure. But no, it's not. If you really do some hacking and you need to attack an application, the thing that you don't know are the thing that breaks the process, right? The biggest security element is an idiotic programmer because you have no idea what's going on there. Now, if an attacker is clever, he doesn't guess because he knows he has no chance to guess the password. So there is one more stronger attack called password mining. I call it password mining. So basically on jailbroken phone, everybody can access any process, everybody can dump any memory and find the passwords there. So we actually did some research on default UI kit keyboard on iOS, and it shows that even if you check the secure checkbox, which basically replaces the letters with stars as you type, when you type the letter, it actually goes through all the system in order to check if it should be capitalized, in order to give you hints, what words to suggest. And then when it should be displayed, it says, oh no, it's secure, so I will just draw a star. So it's really funny, because if you look at the memory, your password is all over the place, including derivatives from you know, the suggestions.
iOS has a keylogger inside the system, so every time you use the keyboard, the default keyboard, this is keylogged in the system, so you can always check the system keylogger, and then you have all the things that you type. So
I don't know about this, which is maybe a shame, but
I have been to some conference about security in the iPhones, and they said that it's possible to check the database when there is where there is a keylogger and you have the access to all the things that you type. So they had to implement their own keyboard, so they don't use the default system.
yes, which is what I'm coming to. Exactly, because well, this is the point how you deal with it, because there is, you know, no built-in security. You can't rely on anything which is built in. You need to design it from scratch, and it's quite a long process. It actually takes months before you even make it. So, for example, before we implemented the application for Raiffeisen Bank, there is one crazy rockstar cryptographist in Raiffeisen Bank, Czech Republic, who basically designs everything from the mathematical point of view. And then we received like 20 pages of text which had integrals there and sums and so on. And we needed to study it and understand it and implement it. So it's actually really cool to do it. I was sitting at Starbucks for ages to go through it. So. And I didn't know about the keylogger. I will check it, and I will check if it works even for the secure keyboards. Now, this is exactly how you deal with it, because if you can access anything in the memory and anything in the processes, you need to implement everything so that the information stays there for as short time as possible. This is the reason why we have the C module there. Basically, every keys, everything you type even, is in the C module. And if it's not needed, we delete it immediately after it's used. So basically, it's not resistant from malware. If there is a virus on the phone, you are doomed. I might have a nice picture here. This is exactly what we are talking about, right? So basically, in some point of time, application starts, then something happens. Then user enters the PIN code or password, and the application runs, and he's using his account, and then he hits the home button, and right, it's done. From the user's perspective, the application is completed. But the problem is that system keeps it there just in case, right? If I need it later, I can fire it up quickly. So this is a big problem. So if an attacker steals a phone or you lose it, so this is the period of time that we are currently able to deal with on the level of the module. But we are still not able to deal with the situation of malware when the virus is actually running on the device. But it is also very strong because this is the main fear. People don't fear of malware because they don't understand there can run virus too much. They fear of losing the phone. And the problem with this, there's one problem that we are currently hitting. People don't see it. You don't explain you are using C security module with custom memory management. Nobody has any idea what you are talking about, so they don't see it. This is the main problem at this point of time. So what we have implemented is our custom PIN entry keyboard, which is actually really cool. I had a separate 1 hour long talk just about the keyboard, because every time you hit a letter, there is a message going to the security module, and special permutations and inverse permutations are generated in the C module, so it actually creates a Vernam cipher. It's a really strong cryptography there, and then the permutations are deleted when the OK button is hit. So you really leave no fingerprints, and the attacker has a really hard time to figure out anything. So, and it's even harder to decompile it. It's very difficult to learn what's going on. And this leads us to the last problem, which is not related to anti-theft attack, right? We have closed the anti-theft attack, but this is probably the most common attack that we are facing. That every time we release an application, somebody takes the APK, takes the IPA file, and tries to figure out what we are doing there. They are reverse engineering the code. And anytime there is something which is not straightforward, something which is suspicious, there is a discussion on Twitter every time it happens. Not so often to us, but very often to some other banks. For example, one bank stored all their keys encrypted in preferences. And right, is it a big problem, right? They are encrypted, strongly probably, but they are in preferences, right? Why? This opens up a discussion, like what happens if I copy it and paste it there, and so on. So people are talking about security, and this is bad if the people don't have an idea on what's going on. And I will not go too much into details. Instead, I will point you to this handsome guy here, because Kuba will cover these subjects with practical demonstrations really nicely. You will see what can you read from the binary of applications. So it's really it's scary. When I was watching his talk, I was like, oh damn it, he got me. So now, what we are dealing with today, what we are going to solve. So the main subject, if I look at the picture, is dealing with this period of time. Basically, we are trying to do something against the mobile malware, and also we are trying to make something which connects the security more to the representation of security, so that people understand what's going on. So let's touch the mobile malware first. So now mobile malware is a big problem on Android today. It's basically, it's already there. And it's because, Android, if I have any chance to change something by saying this, is really idiotically designed. Because while it is an operating system for masses, for everybody, most of the people use Android, all the processes and the way it works is designed like an experimental operating system. You can install any application, no problem. You can quickly create any application, release it, and share it with everyone, no problem. So this doesn't complement too much. Also, as the smartphones are more common in the society today, it's like 30%, but 70% of the new phones are smartphones. The intensity of attacks will increase, the intensity of writing malware will increase. And The antivirus softwares will not save the day because basically they have no chance to fight the malware because they even don't have a root access, right? So you can basically detect some applications which are well known, which use this common system properties, but they are not designed to fight complex malware which uses vulnerabilities in the operating system. There is one type of application, one type of malware which is the most common on Android, which is an SMS interceptor, right? You can implement it without any difficulties. It's like the sample code. It's the most basic code you can do on Android almost. And there has been quite a big attack using the Eurograbber virus, which is cool in a way because it uses so-called cross-channel approach. You first attack the computer, the desktop computer, then you observe the activity using the configuration files in the cloud, and if user enters the password for the mobile banking, they steal it, and they also try to attack the Android device the user has in order to get the authorization SMS. So this is
How do they know which device to attack? How do they?
This is also really nice because it shows the main weakness. They ask the user to install the application on the phone. So basically this is the virus which works like this. Hello, I'm Helmut from East Germany. Please install me and send me to your 50 friends, right? But it works, and a lot of people lost money using this. So it's one of these moments when you feel your work is really useless, right?
So generally this is not a technical issue, but rather social attack.
Also, but it wasn't possible with the feature phones, right? So the smartphones opened up new possibilities for attackers, right? So this is how it works. And I guess 100,000 people was attacked in the first wave. It was quite big, you know, not huge, but if I had all the money from this attack, I would be happy. I wouldn't be here, definitely. So it also opens up a big question. People are asking, is it secure on the mobile phone, right? We have secure internet banking and the mobile phones are not secure. It shows up that mobile banking today are probably more secure than the internet banking because there has been attack which shows it can be attacked very easily. While designing an attack for an individual mobile banking isn't worth it. As I said, there is no standard in mobile banking authentication, but it's also an advantage because you can't write a single virus to hit all the banks. You need to play with it a little bit. And it usually isn't worth it. Also, what we have seen, this hijacking of authorization SMS is done in a really dumb way. If you look at the way Android should work with the SMSs, for example, you can receive a list of SMSs in one bulk. None of the viruses we examined actually checked the list of SMSs. They just took the first element, right? The programmers are probably totally lazy, I know it, but they didn't do anything more than they really needed to. So what we are currently playing with is the idea of mobile banking intercepting the SMSs, the authorization SMSs before the malware, because most of the malware will be cut just using this simple precaution. So.
But one more thing. I think the SMS for authorization doesn't make sense if you use mobile to
I mean,
makes sense for the PC because this
no,
is another channel.
This is what I was trying to say. Basically, it doesn't make sense for the PC either.
Why?
Because you have a virus which attacks both devices.
You see, I know. No, I can, for example, have a feature phone, and
yes, but
I'm aware of these problems,
Mm.
and I can fight them without writing any code. These are problems I can deal with.
Yes, this is the problem, because you actually can't, because you don't, this is the discussion that always shows up. You can't make people to use feature phones, right? So basically, from the bank's perspective, there is the situation, currently there is 30%, 2 years from now there is 70%, and then it's a big problem. So basically you aren't able to deal with it. You just, either you need to buy a specific tokens, so this is one of the discussion which is ongoing, or you can basically extend the period of current systems by implementing software solutions, which are usually cheaper because you implement them once and you distribute them to all the folks, which is problem with the tokens. you need to pay for individual items, or you can lease them. There are billions ways to finance it from the bank's perspective. So, mobile malware. It's probably the subject that we will talk about probably next year, because it will be even more interesting. So maybe it would be the good time to talk about mobile malware only. But the other issue that we are dealing with in the runtime of the application is some stronger authorization, right? Because today you use four-digit PIN, and while it is strong, people don't trust it in business transactions. Today, most of the mobile banking are retail-oriented for normal people who send money to friends and pay for electricity, but it's not for the people who do business transactions. So we need something like the hardware token. Basically, yeah, this is what I was coming to. This is the subject that we are dealing with. There are millions of options how you can deal with extending your device and making it more secure. There is one I would like to point out, which is TrustZone. Every single ARM device today is shipped with built-in TrustZone, which is like the secure world. You can basically suspend everything what's going on the phone, fire up the TrustZone, do the security thing, and go back to the application. It sounds like magic, but the problem is it's not happening too long. Basically, because there are too many issues with like installing application and with support in the operating system. Basically, nobody allows us to touch it today. So, if you design security today, you can't really count with the TrustZone. You need to think about physical devices. But the problem with these devices is that people will not accept them very easily because they are hard to use and they bother them. So this is why we are designing our own hardware today.
Credit cards?
This is good on Android, but it doesn't work on iPhone. You don't have NFC there on iPhone. So basically, we are heading in different direction. We are heading in Bluetooth 4 direction because Android has the support for Bluetooth Low Energy since 4.3. It's like 1 month ago when they introduced it. So probably this will be the subject, and we are kind of relying on our flexibility and on being faster than IBM and those conventional companies to deliver this solution. So maybe in first half of the next year it should be out. Now, none of these actually work because they either bother people or they don't work. So across the talk I have mentioned many things, and I hope you will ask many questions because this is a really great subject for asking questions. But you might have noticed that there are two main problems that we need to deal with, and this is evangelization, basically talking about the security with people and also with developers so that they know that they should care, because basically, yes, it's a problem, you need to deal with it in order to make bigger customer base and in order to minimize problems. So this would be all, and I'm looking forward for the questions. Yes, please. There.
You said the TrustZone is in every ARM device by now. How do you reckon?
The TrustZone?
Yes.
Well, it's currently there. It's on the chip, basically, but it's not used. You can't access it using the operating system. So from my perspective, it's not really a choice. It's like a philosophical concept that would be really, really nice if it worked, right? It's like...
Go a step further. There are many, many chips that do not have TrustZone.
It's possible, but there are still many chips that do have it. But this is the question of it's not working because many reasons. And this is probably one of them. But basically, if we did the research, there were a lot of chips, mainly we are still trying to push iPhones a little bit, because if you deal with something on iPhones, people will start talking about it. And iPhone chips do have it. And now there is similar mechanism on Intel processors, which could be used on desktop, but still it's not used. So.
What's it called?
No. It's also something with trust, but okay. If you go to trusted execution environment pages, there's usually a link to it. I will find it just after the presentation.
Is it even possible to implement security without hardware module? Because I don't use mobile banking because I know, or I believe let's say, I don't know. I believe that without a hardware module that keeps the private key away from knowledge and does cryptography internally without revealing the key material, this is virtually impossible to make it secure.
Yes, and this is probably the problem, because we always talk about threats and impacts, and currently the threats don't arise, right? So there's the reason of your approach, and I understand it, but this is the reason why we are currently designing the hardware, because we also believe it will not make any sense in 5 years not to use the token, and it will not be just because of the mobile applications, right?
So my
You have
sound more or less correct.
Yes, but you are too early to say. But also there is the big phenomenon of the Internet of Things. So right, you will have everything connected to the internet, and then you will need to start thinking about, is it possible for this world to exist without specialized security device, which is only for the security and for nothing else, can't be opened, can't be done anything. And the answer, if you really think about it, and you go from one direction to another, is no, it can't. You basically need something which holds your identity for different applications. This is the
Physical device can be stolen.
Yes, it can be, but right.
Why not build it into a phone?
This is about the factors, right? You have today you talk about 3 factors of authorization, which is I know something, I have something, and I am something, right? So basically, this is about the only one factor. So if they steal it, they still don't have anything else. And usually, for example, the banking application I showed you already works with the prototype of the Bluetooth token, and we split the security information to both devices actually, so that you can't just steal the phone or steal the device and extract the complete. I have something thing.
So maybe the banks should, I don't know, pressure the vendors to implement something in hardware. The banks have the power to do this.
But if it was on the phone, it wouldn't help, really.
Why not? What's the difference if it's in your pocket, like a little device, or it's this chip built into the phone?
Well, that's a good question. If you basically have the security token bound to the device, then it makes no sense. You need to carry it in different purse, or I don't know, somewhere else. But the problem with smartphones today is that when you steal them, or when you have them, you have the factor I have something, and you are able to extract the other factors from the memory and from the operating system. This is the point. So basically, just by splitting the tokens into 2, it helps you a bit. So it's there is this sentence that people commonly use. 5 years ago, I needed to know your password, and I needed to have your phone. And it's the same today, right? I needed to know your password for the internet banking, and I needed to have your phone. And it's the same for the smartphone banking. So the problem is that today I don't have your phone. I have your smartphone, and I can extract your password from there. So that's the reason why it compromises.
Psychological difference that you have to have.
No, it's
smartphone password and a token, hardware token. Right.
Yes, which is more difficult to have.
But it's more for the users. They feel more secure if they need that the bad guys have to.
Okay, I get it. Yes. Then the answer is yes. If you think it's about people don't get why it's safe, yes, it's this also. But it also helps you, right? You just need to have the instruction, don't carry it very nearby to each other. You have your phone here, like I do, and have your token there, like I don't do currently, because I don't have it.
But for practical reasons, I think it won't work, because people won't somehow they won't care enough to put these items into separate I don't know, pockets, purses, or something. Okay, I've got cargo pants with 6 pockets, and I can try doing it, but I don't know. There are no few ladies here, and they, for example, get dressed in a nice dress, and they've got small purse.
We actually had a brainstorming on this, and we had one lady there, and she does marketing here, it wouldn't work, and she said, well, so let's put it in the earpieces, right?
Really inconvenient for the user because they have to carry their phone and they have to carry in a separate place the token, right? And if
Yes.
you carry your phone, then you want to do mobile banking, so they can do mobile transactions anywhere. So they have to remember to carry their token, and it's...
Well, that's the question that we are currently working with, right? We know it's a burden, so this is why we are trying not to make it the same way as the other vendors. We are trying to make the token much smaller. First thing, we are trying to make it less obtrusive in the sense that you don't have to actually take it out of your pocket to make it work, or to help secure you better. And also, we believe that we can communicate using the right channels. If you have the mobile banking, you can sell the token using the mobile banking, and you don't need to enforce the usage of the token. This is another thing. You can just explain what is it good for, why you should care, and then if you like, take it. This is the idea. Mm-hmm.
How about the jailbreak detection and just avoiding users to do jailbreak? In some terms and conditions, right, that jailbreak is not supported.
The problem with jailbreak detection is that it prevents only software which doesn't care about the jailbreak detection. Actually, there is one more rather aggregative article on many various subjects, and one of them is avoiding the jailbreak detection. You can basically using methods with link to turn it off, because how do you detect jailbreak? You either check for CDA, or you can run some process using the erased privileges. In this case, you will not get to the App Store. There are not too many ways to check for jailbreak, and if you do, and if I care as a malware writer, I can turn it off.
But it's a technical problem, and I agree it's hard or impossible. But maybe we shouldn't just take care. Maybe jailbreak users should just care for themselves. They are usually technical users. They usually know what they are doing, and
Yeah, this is the problem. It's not the case. It's not the case. The reason why people jailbreak isn't that they are technical users and they know what they are doing. It's because they want to have an RSS reader on the home screen. This is the reason why they do it.
Free apps from the internet.
Free apps from the internet, exactly. So it's not the case. But this is also a strong message, because users shouldn't jailbreak, but developers must jailbreak. This is the point of to keep in mind. Because you need to design applications and write them so that you assume your phone is jailbroken and do as much as possible to. Okay, so I.
This custom implementation of the keyboard
Mhm.
is really useful, because you told that when you press the key,
Mhm.
there is an event in the
Yes.
system. The same with the touch screen. What to do with it?
The
Maybe when it's very
Yes, again, the problem is what you want to prevent. You will not be able to stop the malware. It basically can just use touches on the screen, but you can help the after theft attack, right? Because you just you make it more difficult for an attacker to look at the events in the UI kit system than just reading the password from the memory. This is it's much more complex. You need to spend the day by jumping the pointers in memory and actually trying to figure out what's going on. Probably this pointer here was the number 1 button at the time, so right, it got here. It's much more difficult.
It's not custom memory management. It is possible, and it is implemented on this lowest level on C++.
Yes, you just work with all the allocs and
But you have this custom memory management on actually all levels.
no, you don't, because the module takes all the information and computes the one-time password, basically a signature, which means the signature doesn't tell you anything. It actually does tell you something. It's a footprint of the password, but you need to have many signatures in order to be able to do some attack on it and reconstruct the original keys. But you know, if you compute the signature, you can carry it around and spread it on the memory quite a lot.
Do you implement your own memory allocator?
No, it's the next step. No, we don't have it.
So you use, so as much as I can tell
Mhm.
about Android is Linux-based system, you use libc malware.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So.
One
is-
more thing,
mhm.
because I wonder, you say separate token. Why, in the end, shouldn't we treat the phone as a token and accept the risk that if it's stolen, it's like we should, I don't know, go to the nearest phone booth
Yes.
and call our bank.
Yes,
that
but
we
this is it. If the classic phone gets stolen, it's correct. It's okay. But if the smartphone gets stolen, there is a good chance that, you know.
No,
But if you implement all of this,
yes,
then there is
I
no
mean-
chance.
I mean
But
implement hardware security inside the phone,
okay.
and your after theft stuff, this keyboard, and so it's hard to extract the password.
Then you would be able to deal with the anti-theft attack, but you still wouldn't destroy the malware unless you have the TrustZone or so on. So we still.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm saying about attaching somehow attaching the token to the phone, whether it's TrustZone or it's an SIM application or there is another security module, because after all, SIM cards can perform this. Technically, they are capable of performing this.
So
stuff.
I think this is basically the idea of the TrustZone, right? This is basically the reason why it's there. That you have something in the hardware
Yeah.
which makes it secure, but it doesn't work for a bunch of reasons, right? Okay. I think the penetration of ARM devices with TrustZone is okay. You know, you can start using it at least as an optional choice, but still it's not.
I think there is no support on the OS side.
Exactly. So this is why you can't use it today. And also there's a question: how do you install your stuff into the TrustZone to make it?
I think there won't be. There will be libraries of operations of I don't know, secure storage and so on that OS provides, and applications may use it. It's only for applications won't be able to enter TrustZone.
Yes, but this is the question. I mean, how